All right, hey, this is only the second time I've had to redo a video because I don't think I had the audio turned on where you could hear me enough. So I'm going to try to get through this in a reasonable amount of time. But what's important here is there's some great information about the national outlook of real estate, what we actually think is going to happen because we're comparing it to what happened before. A lot of people are nervous because the inventory is so low, the market is so hot that a lot of people sit there and say, well, this is going to be like before. And we're going to go through some numbers and talk about it because it really just doesn't look that way. And we're going to explain to you why. So, this is from Keeping Current Matters. And they're a group that we can utilize to kind of get national information, help us stay informed on what's going on outside of Athens, Georgia, and Watkinsville areas. So, let's just take a look here and see what we're seeing nationally. So, let me move my little head off to the side here. This is a snapshot of the year over year changes in our market. So right now, we're up 50% in showings, 40% in purchase applications, and we're a little bit up on existing home sales and new home sales. But the inventory is 52% down. That's the big story. Keep in mind, this is comparing to last year, which would have been a little bit of COVID starting, lockdown, a lot of people not going to real estate showings. So there are some numbers in there that are going to, change. But the big thing here, 52% down. Let's take a look at that. One thing that other people are talking about is interest rates. You might have watched 60 Minutes on Sunday night, and where the chairman of the Federal Reserve talked about the economy roaring back and if interest rates would be ticking up. So he really did say in that interview that he expected interest rates to remain relatively flat, but a lot of people think you are going to see a change. Right now, we're at 3.18 average for 30-year. We were as low as 2.6. And that's what got people spoiled because over three is still great. Under four is excellent. If we're anywhere in those three and low fours, we're in a great interest rate climate, which is part of what's driven most of this. Right now, basically, this is from the senior economist at Realtor.com, is that rates have been so low that buyers are a little spoiled by them. So it's natural to feel a little worried when it ticks up to 3.125. Keep that in perspective because it's 3.125, which is an excellent rate. Here's the other thing going on in our market year over year changes. So we're talking about new listings and total listings. You can see that our new listings are finally trending up, but the problem is the total listings are trending down. And that's because so many things that are coming to market are immediately going under contract. I know many of you are tired of the sold before published or under contract before published. And that's what's going on. Our problem is total listings. So while we're seeing some new listings come out, they're going very quickly. This is the change in the housing inventory across the entire country. Red represents way down. And you can see this dark red. It's here in Georgia, we are 60.5% down. All over the Southeast, it's around 60%. And, the only place where they're having a little bit of chaos, I guess, is New York because they're only 12% down. And the rest of the country is almost from 40 to 60, almost 70% Utah. So the housing inventory is what's driving a lot of what's going on. Let's look at the single family housing units completed since 1970. So what I'm talking about here is homes that were built so home buyers could buy them. You can see since the 70s, here's what the average annual units completed was right about here. And then remember that 2008 crash? What happened then? Whoa, we had inventory go way up. Some of the most homes we brought to market in the history of the United States. But these last 13 years, we have been well below the average. So we've been building a deficit in homes for 13 years now. And now we have a low supply that we have predictably created. So this is not as crazy as it seems, no matter what you think. There it is. We've been below what we should have been building. In the 1980s, they made more houses than they do now, and our population is significantly greater than it was in the 80s. So it's just natural that we would have a low supply situation. People have talked about cash out refis. Are people refining and taking their cash and messing up their loan to values in their homes? Is that going on and going to be a crisis? Well, let's take a look at the actual numbers and see what it looks like. So in 2006, this was the highest point of cash out refi. That means that when somebody's taking a refinance of their house and they still have 80% loan to value and they pull cash out, $321 billion worth of this in 2006. Good time to be a mortgage lender. And then the home equity cashed out in the 2020, which was supposed to be historic, was less than half of that. Now, while it was still up, it was nowhere near what we saw in 2006 before the crisis. Tappable equity. It's what I alluded to before. That is where you have equity that you can pull out that will still have you in an 80-20 loan to value ratio. So if you can look at the amount of tappable equity in 2006, we were just under 5 billion. Right now, we're over 7 billion. So there's a lot more tappable equity than there's ever been. But when you look at the actual cash out refis versus 2006, look at this. We had less tappable equity in 2006, which is in the red, more in 2020, but we had 89% of those refis were cash outs, only 33% in 2020. So it's the opposite of what people are saying. People are not doing that as much, and they have a ton of equity in their home. This is a great, great thing. Here in the Wall Street Journal, this is something they said recently. I'll actually read this. The residential real estate market is on its biggest tear since 2006, just before the housing bubble burst and set off a global recession. Yet, nearly every meaningful way, today's market is the opposite or the inverse of the previous boom. So basically, before then, the mortgages were bad, poor loans, poor credit worthy. If you've gotten a mortgage lately, you understand that you've probably been thrown through the ringer. It's a very different process. I personally did a refinance on a construction loan and had to provide over 30 documents to say the same thing. So we're seeing something a little different. One of the things that you want to understand, this is from the NAR, it says that the demand for homes is outpacing the listings and the buyer competition is way up. Well, you've been hearing that. But if you look here, this is a thing to note. To get back to a healthy supply equivalent to a 6 months of demand, we're going to need to add 2.7 million homes to the market. And that just seems very hard to do. While we will see new listings come to market, that glut of inventory seems quite hard. Basically, these two things talk about the average offers in February. We're now in April. This could be up from there. In February, across the country, 4.1 offers per house when they hit the market. I don't know if that's taking into account homes that don't get the offers immediately, or if it's taking in maybe bad offers. But here in the Athens and Oconee area, we're seeing a very hectic market where recently I saw one where people had 13 offers. And I heard about from agents in our office that lost out on other bids across the Athens area as well. Here's what people are asking. Here's what they're talking about. Is this like the last time? Well, let's compare the numbers and let's actually see if that could be true. Because when you look at it, you'll see some differences that point to why it is not. So the home appreciation during 2002 to 2005 was over 10% on average. It's below 6.5% on average right now. You will note that 2020 saw increasing gains, and so did 2004 and 2005. Big difference I'm going to get to is back then in 2004 and 5, inventory was going up and prices were going up. Now inventory goes down, prices go up. That makes sense, supply and demand. What happened in 04 and 05 wasn't sustainable. Let's look at the default risk in the mortgage market. This is what's going on now that they pulled up from the Urban Institute. And you can see in 05 and 06, the product risk in these mortgages was much higher. Reasonable lending standard right here. Look at the product risk at that point. Now, after that, it goes way down, and we kind of hit a trough in 2014 that we're right on line with right now. And basically, product risk in the mortgages is almost non-existent. So we have very good borrower risk and low chances of default going on right now versus the last 20 years. Months of inventory existing. This is what I was getting back to. In 05 and 06, the inventory was going up 5 months, 6 months, 9 months. Inventory up, price up. How's that make sense? It's not supposed to. However, now we see the trend and making good economic sense that you might have learned in ninth grade. 4 months to 3.7 to 3 months of inventory. And now in 2020, we were down to 2.1 months. So that's what's driving up the price. When we have more population and less homes, it just makes simple sense. It's a super seller's market right now. However, I would tell you, I've seen too many people get arrogant, and you can price yourself right out of it. Not everybody's just going to come bring you what you want. Some will, but not every property is the same. It's not universal. American equity in their homes has skyrocketed. This is what's also going to probably keep us out of any problems here. The gain in equity of mortgage homes is averaging $26,000. The current average equity across the country of mortgaged home is $200,000. 38% of the homes right now are owned free and clear, and then the average increase in equity is around 16.2%, totaling 1.5 trillion gains in equity for homeowners over the last several years. Change in home equity. We're looking at it right here. $18,000 is the average in Georgia, and across the country, you're seeing even larger numbers like in Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. So these are the good metrics that are going to help people. We've got good loans, we've got a low supply, and high demand. A lot of this makes sense. Instead of sitting there thinking about predicting the worst, make sure you understand what's going on. Otherwise, you'll just sound like an idiot. Unfortunately, some people in our industry will do that. They'll just say things and actually have no idea what the numbers are. So what's going on is it's like a bathtub that we can't fill up. Down through the faucet, we're trying to pour homes on the market, but we can't clog the drain. So they're just going right through the market. You see under contract before published, sold before published, and very few homes are actually being exposed to the market. So we can't build up an inventory. We also aren't really building a lot of homes. Cost of materials are up, and we basically have a larger population. So what we're going to see right now is this going to continue for a while. What we're going to do and what we do with our clients, we work to find what you're looking for. We try to get in front of the sign. And by doing that, we pick up the phone, we call, we go hunting for what you need as a home buyer. And as a home seller, we keep you educated and informed on what you need to do so you are ready to go. People talk about a guaranteed offer. It's really not about that. It's much more about getting the right people to where they want to be with as minimal fuss so you know they can perform on your contract. If you have any questions, always reach out to us. Thank you for going through this video. This is some very important information that we want to get out. Reach out to us at 5mrealty.com if you're looking to buy a house or if you want some information and help selling a house. 5mrealty.com. Thank you. Y'all have a great April.